Welcome, my name is Alexander, and this is my Let's Play of realMyst. So a little background on why I picked this. This is the new and improved version of Myst, what they call realMyst, as you're about to see. It has some differences from the original Myst game, and the original Myst game, which came out in about 1997, was really quite a big phenomenon in its day, and for my family in particular.
I realized the moment I fell into the fissure that the book would not be destroyed as I had planned. It continued falling into that starry expanse on which I had only a fleeting glimpse. I've tried to speculate where it might have landed, but I must admit that such conjecture is futile. Still, the questions about whose hands might one day hold my Myst book are unsettling to me. I know my apprehensions might never be allayed, and so I close, realizing that perhaps the ending has not yet been written.
So when I was a kid, we were probably in my very, very early teens. The game had been out for a couple of years when we got a hold of it. My dad, my brother, and I played it and the subsequent games together. And it was a really great bonding experience, especially for my brother and I, but for all of us. It was great for my dad as well, because I think he liked us playing this kind of game better than sort of shooting, blowing stuff up style of game. And it just has such a unique aesthetic and style and story and world building that it just is unforgettable. So I'm going to share that with you today. And as I say, the realMyst version, a couple of things about it that are different, not least of which, in the original game, when I click on that book, on the Myst book, it just pops up into the foreground as opposed to coming up toward you like that. And we got our first glimpse of the world, one of the worlds we're going to be spending the rest of this experience in. So first things first, is easy enough. Click on the panel. You don't have to wait until the end of that little sequence to do this, but thought it would be fun. You got the loading bar now. Back when the game was a lot less complex, I guess it didn't seem to be necessary, but here we are. So you can have a look around. If you played the original game, then you recognize some of the differences. A lot of the same elements have been recreated, but such as you'll see albatrosses fly by. They're kind of behind the tree there. You'll see the couple of little swallowtail butterflies fluttering around the island. The geometry is a little smoother. The water is actually moving, which it used to do. The textures are a little more nuanced. In the old days, the textures were a lot more static and plastic. I mean, they look good, but for what they were. But this is a little more in the modern style. I don't know if this is the source engine that they did this in, but it resembles it. The graphics engine they did Portal and Half-Life 2 in, but very similar. And the controls are... Oh, there you go. There's the bird. The controls are similar as well, and it's... not quite WASD, but it's W for forward, S for backward. You can also left mouse for forward and right mouse for backward. That's good too. And then just pan the mouse to look around. Alright, so let's get started. So you can wander around and look at things. There's no particular order you have to do things in. There's that interesting looking tower thing up there. Remember that for later. But that's a fundamental part of the game experience, is just to wander around and look at things. And you're a lot more free to do that in realMyst, actually, it's worth mentioning. In the old game, it was more like clicking your way through a slideshow, and that you'd click the mouse and you'd advance a little bit further up the path. And that meant that your range of places you can go was a lot more limited. You basically, these sorts of paths like this boardwalk dictated where you could go. But now, if I want to go, down here, I can do that. If I want to go into the woods over here, I can do that. But just to stay on the path for the moment, we're going to look around, and all sorts of odd things. There's a sunken ship over there. There's a model sunken ship over here. There's a rocket ship over there. So all sorts of things that, how do they fit together? We don't know yet. So we're going to dive in and find out. So first things first, we arrive in the library. And this is where going to be our sort of base of operations. It's a library, very nice library. And so there's a bookshelf. And a lot of the books on it have been burned, which is sort of shocking. And you go through a lot of them, but there's a few you notice that are still whole. And so I pick those up, and you'll notice they are journals, records. I've often thought it's kind of funny when you think about it that a lot of the experience of playing a Myst game is basically reading other people's diaries. So I won't read these out loud, but they're worth reading for a couple of reasons. One of which is that they have, some of them at least have clues, which are going to be very, very important for solving some of the subsequent puzzles. The other reason is that they just add an enormous amount of depth and richness and mystique as you try to piece together what kind of world you're in and what's going on. So this one, I called this age Channelwood, and it is a very different world, is the first line. And then if you flip through it, as you read the descriptions in a lot of these journals, you start noticing that they don't conform to the description of the place that you are in. So take this one for example. We haven't seen a lighthouse quite like that one, and that certainly doesn't look like Myst Island, does it? So the plot thickens already. And for those of you who played the original game, you'll notice there's another one here. This is not in the original Myst game. This is a realMyst exclusive, as you might say. What that's actually going to mean will become apparent a little bit later. In the meantime, however, there's other things to look at. There's a map that's going to be very useful later. It doesn't have a lot on it, but it does have this. Does have this tower rotation function, which that'll be important later. And we saw a tower earlier, so bear that in mind. And we have these two books, one red, one blue, with a page next to them. All right, what's going on? So we picked up the page. Pages. This isn't like the adventure game where you pick up inventory item upon inventory item and you end up lugging a bunch of them around. Pages. You'll pick up some pages, but that's about as far as it goes. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, something's up. Who is this shady character?
Bring me a red. I can't see. Need a red page, you must. Make her bring. Shh. I'm serious. One thing I need. Rescue.
Well, that wasn't terribly coherent. Pretty garbled, whatever it is. All right, but we did get that we're supposed to be finding red pages. Okay. Well, in the meantime, we also have this blue book. So let's see what's happening here.
Monsieur? Are you?
So another garbled transmission.
See you. Nah. Help me.
And wouldn't you know it, he wants us to
Blue pages.
get him blue pages. Who'd have thought?
Never. pages. I must have the blue page. Bring them to me.
Alright, so and the plot thickens further. So, we've got a quest to bring 2 types of pages to those fellows, whoever they are. And we've got all the more to find out. And, as a matter of interest, as we come outside, one of the other additions they made to realMyst is that they now have a day-to-night cycle. It is considerably faster than a real day-to-night cycle. But it is kind of a nice touch, so it's just getting on for sunset set here on Myst Island. Rather nice. Alright, so as I say, when in doubt, go looking around. I think look for things, listen for things, and click on things, see what happens. So wander around the island a little bit. Now, and it's important that you do that. I mean, again, you've got a little more freedom to notice stuff with this way of looking around 360 view. Because I think when we first played the game, we must have walked past this about a zillion times before we noticed it was there. So, Catherine, I've left for you a message of utmost importance in our 4 chamber beside the dock. Enter the number of marker switches on this island into the imager to retrieve the message. Yours, Atris. It's actually easier to read. I remember Atris, we couldn't figure out what his name was written down for the longest time in the original game, so that is an improvement, I'll admit. Alright, so the 4 chamber, well, we kind of looked at that when I was looking around at the environment when we started. Again, useful aspect of the 360 viewing, but what about marker switches? Well, what are marker switches? Well, you may notice that a lot of the buildings seem to have these sort of lever things next to them, so that may be what we want. So it's easy enough, go through and count them. It's a good opportunity to explore the island. So there's 1. There's another one. That's 2. 3 next to this sort of bunker thing. 4. There's a 5th one by the rocket ship there. 6th one next to this building. 7. And up here there's an 8th. So we've got 8 marker switches. Alright. So away we go to the 4 chamber. So again, this is one of those things where with a 360 movement system it's a lot easier to spot, because we must have walked by this a few times before we noticed it was there. Alright, so when we get... Alright, so as I say, it pays to always click on things, especially if you see something when the cursor changes from, the sort of normal hand cursor to a more sort of tapping on something cursor. That's a sign you can click on something, so... And wouldn't you know it, that sort of pool of water was not a pool of water. Alright. And what do we have over here? Alright, so water turbulent pool, number 67. Marker switch diagram, 47. Topographical extrusion test, 40. Alright, so I guess we were looking at number 67. And marker switch diagram, in case you were to come in here first, would let you know what a marker switch looks like, but that's alright. So we want 8 marker switches. Enter that in. Okay. So now let's hit the button again and see what happens.
Catherine, my love, I have to leave quickly. Something terrible has happened. It's hard for me to believe. Most of my books have been destroyed. Catherine is one of our sons. I suspect Agon, but I shouldn't leap to conclusions. I'll find him and Cirrus as well. Oh, I should have known better than to have left my library unchecked for so long. Well, I've removed the remaining undamaged books from the library and placed them in their places of protection. You shouldn't have to use the books until I return, but if you've forgotten the access keys, remember the tower rotation. Oh, and don't worry, Catherine. Everything will be fine. I'll see you shortly. Oh, and erase this message after you've viewed it, just to be safe.
All right. Oh, I should mention you don't have to erase the message. There isn't actually any way to do that. But I find it I did find it effective in that it lent a sense of danger, as if it's a good idea for you not to be leaving a paper trail behind you. And then his two sons are apparently up to no good, and she puts a rather different slant on the conversation, if you can call it that we had with those red and blue book guys earlier. All right, and just for fun, I'm going to do show you. Show you the wrong one. Show you the topographical extrusion test. As I said, a marker switch diagram in case you got here first and didn't know what it looked like. I just wanted to show you this on the grounds that it serves no direct purpose in the game at all. This sort of modeling of a mountain range in hologram, except insofar as it's gives you a sense of the depth and the reality of the world that you're in, just to show you this thing isn't purely there for your convenience. It has some purpose in universe, I guess you might say. Alright, well, we can just leave it as is. I think you don't have to turn it back on. And back up again. And it's nighttime. Alright. Little ground lights to help you find your way, which is handy considering one problem you do run into with this new movement system is that I find that it does carry the occasional risk that you're going to get stuck in the world geometry. I not in the sense you can't get out, but I tend to get caught up on door frames when I'm moving from room to room in this version of the game. So that's a little bit of a nuisance that you just sort of have to deal with or get the hang of. Alright, so we heard all this talk about marker switches, and and I forgot to mention, the fellow in the video is Rand Miller, is one of the Miller brothers Rand and Robin, who created this game. It's actually a re-recording of his performance for that message. A lot of the movies in the game have been re-recorded. The ones in the red and blue books haven't, but the other ones have for some reason, which I kind of think is too bad. But then we have the marker switches we were talking about. So what are they for? Well, let's turn one of them on and see what happens. And back up to the library. Well, where would you mark things out? You mark them out on a map, wouldn't you? So there you go. So now we've got the cabin marked out and something next to it. Mentioned the tower rotation. Let's try that again. Aha! So now it's locked on to something, not the cabin, but something beside it. So that's a bit of a mystery, but what did the tower rotation do? Well, how do we get to the tower? We'll take a look around here, the paintings in the library. Well, that doesn't look like the library as it appears. You click on that, see what happens. There we go. Aha! Secret passage. Alright, so away we go. I'm going to be coming through here a fair bit. A lift. There we go. So, there we go. Aha! So it's aligned with that, the particularly tall tree amongst the trees on the island of Myst. If you come up here without having pointed it at anything, that would just be closed. You'd just be looking at the wall. On the other side, it's a key. So tell us what the point is of looking at the tree. 724. I'm not entirely clear on what that means, but we should probably go find out. Now, and I should mention that important piece of advice when you're playing any of the Myst games is keep a piece of paper or a notebook or something with you when you're playing, because things like that, those numbers, sometimes it isn't immediately clear what they do. You're going to want to remember for later, so unless you've got an absolutely phenomenal memory, you're going to want to write stuff down. Alright, so head back down again. This is one of the great things I love about the Myst games, is the sort of steampunk clanking machinery and brass and all this kind of thing. It's wood paneling and that style, sort of Victorian steampunk, I guess they call it, it was part of what really got us into the games, because it was just so, it's beautiful for one thing, and for another thing, totally unique in the experience we had as kids. So that was part of its staying power, is just how darn cool it looks. So as you see, the outside door of the library seals when you open the secret doors. So here's a painting of the outside door. Reverse it back to normal. There we go. Alright, so we were looking at which way the tower was pointing. If you go around the corner here, aha, so there's the little enclosure that has this extra big tree in it. And again, the importance of wandering and exploring in a Myst game, because it took forever before we really worked out that was even back there. That was a bit of a learning curve for us to figure out what was going on. Alright, so you don't particularly have to close the door at this point, but I like to. Alright, so here we are. There's a sort of a tank furnace sort of a thing here, and a crank wheel. Oh, well, it works, but you can hear gas, so we should probably turn that off. And, aha, a safe. The 3-digit code, and I remember we've just seen one. So it was 724, so let's try it. 724. A box of matches. That's a little anticlimactic, but we do have a sort of a gas stove there to look at. So you open the box, just click on it, click again to pick up a match, and then to light the match, you just you don't have to click or anything, just pass it across like so. You have to move reasonably quickly at this point, but you light the pilot light there, and now when we turn the gas on, now it's going. Okay. So nothing in particular is happening, so you gotta crank it a bit more, and you can just click and hold now to get it going. Watch the gauge on the tank. There we go. So now the gauge is starting to go up, and you can crank it even further if you want to go faster, but just to show you, as it goes up and up and up, when it gets to full pressure. Aha, something just happened. So you heard that loud cha-chunk noise from outside. Let's step out. Oh, morning. And there go the butterflies. Aha. Now again, so if you hadn't discovered this tree, it's not immediately obvious where that sound is coming from, but when you get here, lo and behold, there's an elevator car in the tree, which is being raised up out of the ground. Now unfortunately, it's just going to keep going, and there's not an awful lot up there, so clearly we're not going to get far if it just keeps going. Huh. So what you need to do at this point is get the crank again, turn it back the other way. Now you see the pressure gauge is going in reverse, and you're going to hear sort of a steam release noise. And now it's going down again. You can incidentally get in the little space here and ride it all the way to the top. There's nothing up there to do, but it is kind of a cool view of the island. And then when you get all the way up, if you want to come down, you just hit that button. But that button's not going to get us any further than ground level. And right now we want to go below ground level. So down we go. Aha. Here we are. And if you want, you can turn the crank down here, which will turn the gas pressure up upstairs so that if you have to come back for any reason, the elevator will be up and ready. Saves you a step later. And here is another book. So we found one of the places of protection that the tower rotation was supposed to take us to. And aha! Yet another world to explore. The first of the Ages of Myst. And we'll explore that when we come back.